The depths of desperation. The emergency lights in Mining Complex Delta pulsed an angry red, their strobing glow reflecting off the crystalline walls of the tunnels. Lyra pressed her webbed hand against the rough surface, her bioluminescent markings dimming instinctively as she tried to control her breathing. The atmosphere processors on this level had failed hours ago, making the air thin and acrid. For an aquatic species like hers, it was nearly unbearable. Another tremor shook the tunnel, and fine crystal dust rained down from above. The creature was getting closer. She could feel its movements through the soles of her feet, each vibration sending waves of terror through her body. This wasn't how her mission was supposed to go. She was a xenobiologist, sent to study the unique crystal formations of Aegis 7. At least, that's what her cover story said. The truth was far more complicated. 3 levels above, Marcus Hayes was completing his final inspection of the day when the first alarm sounded. As safety inspector for frontier mining operations, he'd seen his share of disasters, but something about this felt different. The seismic readings were all wrong, too regular, too purposeful. "Control, this is Hayes," he spoke into his comm unit. "I'm getting some strange readings from level 12. Anyone else picking this up?" Static answered him. He checked his environmental suit's oxygen levels, 4 hours remaining. More than enough time to check it out and get back to the surface. Something in his gut told him this wasn't just another mining accident. The elevator to the lower levels was locked down, standard protocol during emergencies. Marcus overrode it with his inspector's codes, silently thanking whatever deity might be listening that corporate bureaucracy insisted on giving him unlimited access. As the lift descended, he reviewed what he knew about level 12. It was supposed to be abandoned, deemed too unstable for mining operations months ago. So why were there fresh power readings coming from down there? The lift doors opened to chaos. Emergency lights painted everything in shades of red, and the air was thick with crystal dust. Marcus activated his suit's filtration system and pulled out his scanner. The seismic disturbances were stronger here, and now he could feel them through his boots, a rhythmic pattern that reminded him of footsteps. A scream echoed through the tunnels, not human, but definitely sentient. Marcus broke into a run, following both the sound and his scanner's increasingly erratic readings. He rounded a corner and froze. A figure crouched in an alcove, pressing itself against the crystal wall. Even in the red emergency lighting, he could see that its skin was a pale blue, marked with patterns that seemed to glow and fade like deep-sea creatures. Definitely not human, but also clearly terrified. Before he could move or speak, the ground shook violently. The alien's head snapped up, large iridescent eyes meeting his through his helmet visor. The patterns on its skin flared bright with fear. "Run," it said in surprisingly clear English. "It's coming." The tunnel behind them exploded inward as something massive burst through the crystal wall. Marcus caught a glimpse of segmented armor and far too many eyes before his training kicked in. He grabbed the alien's arm, cool and smooth under his gloved hand, and pulled. "This way." They ran together through the twisting tunnels, the creature's massive form destroying everything in its path behind them. The alien kept pace with him despite the obviously difficult atmosphere, its movements graceful even in panic. The specimen containment lab, it gasped between breaths. Level 13. We might have a chance. Marcus didn't waste time asking questions. He adjusted their course, leading them toward a maintenance shaft he knew would take them down 1 level. The creature's roar shook more crystal dust from the ceiling, but the sound was falling behind them now. They reached the shaft, and Marcus quickly pulled open the access panel. "Ladies first," he said, managing a grim smile behind his helmet. "Assuming that's not offensive to your species." The alien actually laughed, a musical sound despite the situation. "I am female, as it happens. Lyra. And thank you. Marcus Hayes. We can do proper introductions once we're not being chased by whatever that thing is." As they climbed down the shaft, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what he'd gotten himself into. Unauthorized aliens, hidden specimens, and monsters in the mines, this was way above his pay grade. But something about Lyra's evident fear, and the way she trusted him immediately despite their differences, told him he'd made the right choice. What he didn't know was that this choice would change not only his life but the relationship between their species forever. As they descended into the darkness of level 13, neither of them could have predicted the web of secrets and lies they were about to uncover, or the bond that would form between them in the face of what was to come. The creature's roars echoed down the shaft, but for now, they were safe. Marcus checked his scanner again. The specimen containment lab should be just ahead. Whatever answers Lyra was looking for, whatever had brought her to this remote mining colony, he had a feeling he was about to find out. And somehow, he knew there would be no going back to simple safety inspections after this. Unlikely salvation. The specimen containment lab was a maze of shattered stasis tubes and toppled equipment. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across broken glass and spilled preservation fluid. Marcus kept his scanner up, sweeping for any sign of the creature while Lyra moved with practiced efficiency through the chaos. Whatever you're looking for, make it quick, Marcus warned. That thing won't stay confused by the maintenance shafts forever. Lyra's bioluminescent markings pulsed with concentration as she accessed a still-functioning terminal. The creature tracking you, she said while her webbed fingers flew across the interface, it's not supposed to exist. It's a hybridized life form, part native crystal fauna, part something else. Something else? Marcus moved closer, noting how Lyra's markings shifted from blue to a deeper purple. You want to tell me what a xenobiologist is really doing in a mining colony? A crash from above made them both freeze. Dust and crystal fragments rained down from the ceiling. Lyra's markings flared bright with alarm before dimming almost completely. I'm with the Interstellar Ethics Commission, she admitted quickly, still working at the terminal. We received reports of illegal genetic experimentation. Corporate's been using this abandoned level as a secret lab, splicing crystal-based life forms with biological material to create weapons. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Weapons? For what? War is coming, Marcus. Some factions want humanity contained, others want to exploit your potential. These creatures? They're meant to be controllers, modified to inject crystal parasites into human hosts. Take over your nervous systems. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd seen the signs over the past months: increased security, mysterious shipments, personnel disappearing. That's why they promoted me to safety inspector, he realized. I was getting too close. Lyra finally found what she was looking for, downloading data to a crystalline storage device. Your species has a remarkable ability to adapt and survive. Some fear that. Others want to use it. Her large eyes met his. I'm here to prevent both. Another crash, closer this time. The creature had found them. Time to go, Marcus said, grabbing Lyra's arm. But she pulled back. Wait. There's something else you need to know. She hesitated, her markings swirling with what Marcus was learning to recognize as anxiety. My people, we're not just concerned about the weapons. We're interested in humanity for another reason. Your adaptability, it's unique in the galaxy. We believe it might be the key to saving my species. The door to the lab buckled inward as something massive slammed into it. Marcus drew his mining laser, a tool meant for cutting through crystal, not fighting monsters. Can this wait? No, because, the door exploded inward, and the creature filled the entrance. In the better lighting of the lab, Marcus could finally see it clearly. Its crystalline armor pulsed with the same bioluminescence as Lyra's markings, but twisted and wrong. Multiple compound eyes focused on them, and its mandibles clicked with horrible intelligence. Because that thing isn't just tracking me, Lyra finished. It's hunting you. Specifically you, Marcus Hayes. Your personnel file showed unusual resistance to crystal toxins. You're what they call a perfect host. Marcus didn't have time to process this before the creature charged. He shoved Lyra behind a heavy analysis table and fired his mining laser. The beam scattered off the creature's armor, but it recoiled from the heat. The joints. Lyra called out. The crystal armor is weaker there. Marcus adjusted his aim, catching the creature at the segment between its thorax and abdomen. It screamed, a sound that made his teeth vibrate, and thrashed, smashing more equipment. Lyra's markings suddenly pulsed in a rapid pattern. Marcus, the coolant tanks. If we can rupture them. The temperature shock might shatter its armor, he finished. They shared a look of perfect understanding. Working in sync, they maneuvered around the lab. Marcus kept the creature distracted with precise shots from his laser while Lyra made her way to the environmental controls. The creature was intelligent, he realized. It recognized their strategy and tried to cut Lyra off. Hey! Marcus shouted, firing at its eyes. Perfect host right here. Come and get me. The gambit worked. The creature turned its full attention to him, its movements becoming more focused, more predatory. Marcus felt something then, a strange pressure in his mind, like crystals trying to grow inside his thoughts. Marcus! Lyra's voice snapped him back. Cover your face. He dove behind a support column just as Lyra overloaded the coolant system. Supercooled gas flooded the lab with a roar. The creature's screech of pain was cut short by the sound of cracking crystal. When the gas cleared, the creature lay shattered on the floor, its armored segments split and dark. But even as they approached its remains, Marcus could see the pieces trying to reform, growing together like a crystal garden. It's not dead, Lyra said grimly. Just temporarily neutralized. This was never meant to be permanent, only a way to deliver its payload. She looked at Marcus with genuine concern. And it's still psychically linked to you. I can see the crystal growth patterns starting in your aura. Marcus touched his temple, where a headache was beginning to form. How long? Hours, maybe. But I can help. She stepped closer, her cool hand touching his face. My people have been studying crystal parasites for generations. We've developed defenses. But first, we need to get off this level and contact my ship. As if in response to her words, the facility's AI made an announcement, warning. Critical containment breach detected. Emergency sterilization protocols engaging. This level will be flooded with radiation in 10 minutes. Marcus checked his suit's radiation shielding, barely adequate for a few minutes exposure. Lyra had no protection at all. I know a way out, he said, already planning the route in his head. But you'll have to trust me completely. Lyra's markings pulsed once, bright and clear. I already do. Now let's move before that thing pulls itself back together. They ran from the lab, leaving the creature's crystalline remains behind. But as they fled, neither saw the smallest fragments beginning to glow with an inner light, nor did they notice the way those fragments seemed to reach toward their retreating forms, like hungry thoughts seeking minds to devour. Hidden agendas. The maintenance tunnels of Level 11 were never meant for two people to navigate side by side, especially not when one was wearing an environmental suit. Marcus led the way, his helmet lights cutting through the darkness while Lyra followed close behind. Her natural bioluminescence provided an ethereal backlight that cast strange, shifting shadows on the crystal-studded walls. 7 minutes until radiation purge, the AI reminded them cheerfully. Marcus felt the first twinges of crystal growth behind his eyes, like ice forming on a windowpane. Your ship, he managed through gritted teeth, how far? Hidden in the crystal forests, 3 kilometers from the main complex, Lyra replied. Her cool hand touched his shoulder, and immediately the crystal sensation receded. I can suppress the growth temporarily, but we need to hurry. They emerged into a larger tunnel intersection. Marcus checked his scanner, but the readings were becoming erratic. The crystal infection was affecting the equipment, or maybe his perception of it. Something's wrong, Lyra said suddenly, her markings pulsing with alarm. Security forces are converging on our position. They shouldn't be here, this level was supposed to be evacuated. Corporate's private military, Marcus growled. I've seen them before, always during equipment testing. Never knew what they were really testing until now. The sound of boots on crystal reached them from multiple directions. Lyra's markings dimmed to near invisibility, an instinctive response to threat. They're hurting us, she whispered. But why not just let the radiation kill us? Because they want me alive, Marcus realized. Perfect host, remember. And you're not just any ethics commission agent, are you? Before Lyra could respond, brilliant spotlights flooded the intersection from all four corridors. Armed figures in advanced environmental suits emerged, weapons trained on them. Their armor bore the Frontier Mining Operations logo, but the design was like nothing Marcus had ever seen in the company catalog. Agent Lyra of the Seventh House, a voice called out. A figure stepped forward, their suit more elaborate than the others. Your father sends his regards. Lyra's markings flared with what Marcus now recognized as anger. Director Venn. I should have known you'd be here personally. Still doing the Crystalline Consortium's dirty work. The director's laugh was cold, even through the suit's comm system. Still clinging to your noble ideals about protecting lesser species. Your father understood the necessity of our work. Before his unfortunate accident. Marcus felt Lyra tense beside him. The pieces started falling into place, her real identity, her mission, the deeper game being played. The crystal fragments in his mind sparked with new understanding. The parasites were never meant for war, he said aloud. They're meant for evolution. Forced evolution. Very good, Mr. Hayes. Director Venn sounded genuinely impressed. The Crystalline Consortium has spent centuries trying to replicate humanity's adaptive capabilities. Your species achieves in decades what takes others millennia. But direct genetic sampling proved insufficient. So you created crystal parasites to hijack human nervous systems, Lyra spat. To steal their adaptive traits while destroying what makes them human. To save your species, Venn corrected. Humanity's gift combined with crystalline stability. The perfect synthesis. Your father understood this. My father understood that you were a monster, Lyra's voice shook with rage. That's why he sent the evidence to the Ethics Commission before you killed him. Marcus's head was pounding now, the crystal growth spreading. But with it came something else, a strange resonance with the crystal structures around them. He could feel them, like an extension of his own nervous system. Lyra, he whispered. The crystalline structures in the walls, they're like the creature's armor, aren't they? Her markings pulsed once in understanding. Without taking her eyes off Venn, she pressed her hand against Marcus's suit, where his skin made contact with the interior. A cool sensation spread through him, and suddenly the crystal resonance became stronger, more controlled. I'm sorry about this, she murmured. Before Venn or his soldiers could react, Lyra's bioluminescence flared blindingly bright. At the same moment, Marcus focused on the crystal formations in the walls and ceiling, using the parasitic connection growing in his mind. The crystals responded, exploding outward in a deadly shower of fragments. Chaos erupted in the intersection. Security forces fired blindly, their shots going wide. Marcus grabbed Lyra and pulled her down a side tunnel as crystal shards rained around them. Behind them, Venn was shouting orders, but his voice was drowned out by the sound of crystal growth, now spreading faster, responding to Marcus's will. That was incredibly stupid, Lyra said as they ran. Using the crystal infection like that will accelerate the progression. Better than letting them take us. Marcus was breathing hard now, each step more difficult. Besides, I thought you could help with that. I can, but... She pulled him to a stop, her large eyes reflecting his helmet lights. You need to understand what that means. The treatment, it will create a permanent bond. Your adaptive capabilities combined with my crystalline nature will be linked, like my people's ancient partnerships. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. The facility's AI interrupted, 3 minutes until radiation purge. Marcus managed a pained smile. Ancient partnerships, huh? Sounds better than turning into a crystal zombie. Besides, he added as they started running again, I think we make a pretty good team. Lyra's markings pulsed with what might have been amusement or affection. The first human crystalline bond in history, and you're making jokes. Better than panicking about the radiation, the military forces, or the fact that my brain is turning into crystal. They rounded a corner and found themselves facing an emergency airlock. Beyond it, Marcus knew, was a maintenance shaft that led to the surface. But the controls were crystallized, corrupted by the same forces growing inside him. Lyra looked at the airlock, then at Marcus. Together? She asked. Marcus nodded, feeling the crystal resonance building between them. Together. Behind them, Ven's forces were getting closer. Above them, the radiation purge was counting down. And in front of them, their only escape route waited, sealed behind a crystallized door that would respond to their combined abilities, if they survived trying to open it. Evolution of trust. The airlock's crystallized controls pulsed with an inner light as Marcus and Lyra placed their hands on the corrupted interface. The crystal infection in Marcus's mind reached out, resonating with the structure, while Lyra's bioluminescence synchronized with the pattern spreading across the surface. Warning, 2 minutes until radiation purge, the AI announced. Focus on the crystalline matrix, Lyra instructed, her cool fingers intertwining with his. Let your mind merge with it, like you did with the wall crystals. I'll guide the energy flow. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the strange double sensation of his own consciousness and the crystal networks spreading through the facility. The infection that should have been killing him had instead become a bridge between organic and crystalline thought. Through his contact with Lyra, he could sense her too, her alien mind both startlingly different and comfortingly familiar. The airlock shuddered, crystal formations cracking and reforming as their combined influence reshaped it. Behind them, the sound of boots on crystal grew closer. A plasma burst struck the wall nearby, leaving a smoking crater. Fascinating, Director Ven's voice echoed down the corridor. The bond is already forming. You see, Lyra. Your father's work, my work, it was all leading to this moment. The perfect synthesis of human adaptability and crystalline potential. This isn't what my father wanted, Lyra shot back, never breaking her connection with Marcus and the airlock. He wanted cooperation between species, not forced evolution. Marcus felt the crystal networks pulse with her anger. The infection in his mind responded, sending shoots of pain through his temples. He gritted his teeth, focusing on maintaining the connection. 1 minute until radiation purge. The airlock mechanism groaned, crystal structures flowing like liquid metal as their combined influence reshaped it. But Marcus could feel himself weakening, the infection spreading faster now. His vision blurred, crystal patterns threatening to overtake his sight. I'm losing it, he gasped. Lyra's hand tightened on his. No, you're not. Feel this. Suddenly, her consciousness flooded into his through their connected hands. He saw himself through her eyes, not just his physical form, but the intricate patterns of adaptive potential that made humans unique. He saw her memories of studying humanity from afar, her growing fascination with their resilience, her horror at discovering how the consortium planned to exploit it. Remarkable, Ven's voice was closer now. The first true human crystalline melding, happening right before us. Stand down, both of you. Think of what we could learn from studying this bond. The airlock's crystal structure was almost completely reformed, but Marcus's strength was fading. The infection had reached his lungs, making each breath a struggle. Through their connection, he felt Lyra's rising panic. 30 seconds until radiation purge. Marcus, Lyra's voice was urgent in his mind as much as his ears. The treatment I mentioned, it has to happen now. But you need to understand what it means. This connection we're feeling, it will become permanent. Our minds, our beings, they'll be linked forever. The first of our kinds to join this way. Are you sure? Around them, crystal formations were growing wild, responding to the turmoil in both their minds. Security forces had reached their corridor, their weapons trained on the crystalline chaos surrounding Marcus and Lyra. Hold your fire. Ven ordered. If their connection is severed now, we lose everything. Marcus forced his eyes open, meeting Lyra's iridescent gaze. Through their partial bond, he could feel her fear, not of the forces surrounding them, but of his rejection. In that moment, he realized she was as uncertain about this leap into the unknown as he was. Together, he said simply, and felt her relief flood through their connection. Lyra's markings flared with brilliant light as she initiated the treatment. Marcus felt cool energy flow through their joined hands, spreading through his body like winter sunlight. The crystal infection shuddered, its mindless growth pattern suddenly reshaped by Lyra's influence and his own adaptability. 10 seconds until radiation purge. The airlock's crystal structure finally yielded, its pattern matching the new crystalline network forming between Marcus and Lyra's minds. The door slid open with a sound like chimes in a breeze. Fire! Ven shouted, desperation breaking through his controlled facade. Don't let them escape. But the security forces' weapons had crystallized in their hands, corrupted by the wild energy flowing through the corridor. Marcus and Lyra moved as one, their newly formed bond guiding them in perfect synchronization. They dove through the airlock just as the radiation purge began. The last thing Marcus saw before the airlock sealed was Ven's face pressed against the crystalline window, his expression a mixture of rage and scientific fascination. Then they were falling down the maintenance shaft, their minds and beings intertwined, neither fully human nor fully crystalline, but something entirely new. Through their bond, Marcus felt Lyra's thoughts, this isn't the end. Ven and the consortium won't stop coming after us. We've just proved their theories correct. Marcus sent back his own certainty, let them come. They wanted to force evolution. Well, they got it. Just not the way they planned. They landed at the bottom of the shaft, their movements perfectly coordinated through their new connection. Above them, the facility's lower levels were being sterilized with radiation. But ahead lay the crystal forests where Lyra's ship waited, and beyond that, a galaxy that would have to adapt to the existence of their unprecedented bond. Ready to change the universe? Lyra asked, her markings pulsing in harmony with the crystalline patterns now visible beneath Marcus's skin. He smiled, feeling their shared future crystallizing before them. Lead the way, partner. Beyond species. The crystal forests of Aegis 7 glowed in the light of the setting binary suns, their formations creating natural prisms that painted the landscape in rainbow hues. Marcus and Lyra moved through this alien beauty like dancers in perfect sync, their newly formed bond guiding their movements as one. Through their shared consciousness, Marcus could sense the crystalline structures around them as clearly as Lyra always had, while she experienced his uniquely human ability to adapt to and influence their environment. The ships just ahead, Lyra communicated through their bond, her thoughts tinged with both hope and concern. But they'll be waiting. She was right. Even before they crested the crystal ridge, they could sense the consortium forces surrounding Lyra's vessel. Director Ven had anticipated their escape route, deploying troops in a wide perimeter around the sleek crystalline ship. They're not just here to capture us anymore, Marcus observed, feeling the resonance of weapons specifically designed to shatter crystalline life forms. Ven's seen what we've become. Now we're too dangerous to be kept alive. Through their connection, Lyra shared a memory, her father's last moments, when he discovered the consortium's true plans. Not just to harness human adaptability, but to create a new species they could control, one that combined human potential with crystalline programmability. What she and Marcus had become was both the consortium's dream and their nightmare, a successful fusion, but one made by choice rather than force. The ship's crystal matrix will recognize me, Lyra planned, her thoughts merging with Marcus's tactical experience. If we can reach it, we can use the same resonance we used on the airlock, Marcus finished. But bigger. They didn't need to speak further. Their bond had grown stronger with each passing moment, their separate abilities becoming shared tools. Marcus's innate human talent for improvisation melded with Lyra's deep understanding of crystalline physics. They moved. The forest around them came alive, crystal formations responding to their combined will. Security forces found their positions exposed as crystal spires suddenly grew transparent, while others shifted to create barriers and obstacles. Their specialized weapons began to crystallize in their hands, the ammunition transmuting into harmless formations. Remarkable, Ven's voice carried across the battlefield. He stood by Lyra's ship, wearing an advanced suit designed to resist crystalline influence. The perfect synthesis of human and crystalline potential. But did you really think we wouldn't be prepared for this? He raised a device that pulsed with dark energy. Immediately, Marcus felt their bond shudder. The crystal formations they'd been controlling began to fragment, breaking down into chaotic patterns. A quantum resonance disruptor, Lyra's thoughts became strained. It's designed to shatter crystalline consciousness. My father, this is what they used on him. Marcus felt her pain and fear through their connection, but with it came something uniquely human, anger. Not the cold crystalline logic of her people, but hot, adaptive rage. Through their bond, this emotion flowed into the crystal structures around them, creating patterns that had never existed before. The crystals began to sing. It started as a low harmonic, but quickly built into a symphony of resonant frequencies. The disruptor in Ven's hand sparked and cracked, its carefully calibrated energies overwhelmed by this new form of crystalline expression. The security forces clutched their heads as the crystal song interfered with their suit communications. Impossible, Ven staggered, staring at his useless device. Crystal formations don't behave this way. They follow strict physical laws. That's your mistake, Marcus and Lyra spoke in unison, their voices harmonizing with the crystal song. You wanted to force evolution, to control it. But real evolution comes from choice, from adaptation, from love. Lyra finished alone, her markings pulsing in time with the crystalline patterns now visible across Marcus's skin. They reached the ship unopposed, the crystal song creating a corridor through the chaos. Security forces were retreating, their weapons and equipment compromised by the unprecedented resonance. Only Ven remained, his face visible through his suit's visor, showing not fear but fierce scientific curiosity. You don't understand what you've started, he called out. The consortium won't stop. What you've become, it changes everything. You're right, Marcus replied as the ship's crystal matrix recognized them, its entry portal flowing open like liquid light. It does change everything. But not for you to control. Through their bond, he and Lyra shared the same thought, the galaxy wasn't ready for what they represented. The fear, the attempts to control and weaponize their potential, it would never stop, not here. The ship powered up, its crystalline engines humming in harmony with the forest song. As they prepared to leave Aegis 7, Lyra sent a final transmission to the Ethics Commission, evidence of the consortium's experiments, proof of her father's murder, and a warning about attempts to force evolution between species. But she also included hope, an account of how true connection between species could emerge naturally, through trust and choice rather than control and force. Their bond was living proof that humanity's gift for adaptation could merge with crystalline potential to create something entirely new, but only when both parties chose it freely. As the ship rose through the atmosphere, Marcus and Lyra stood together in its control chamber, their joined minds guiding its crystalline systems. Through their bond, they shared not just thoughts but dreams of the future, of finding others like them who might choose this path, of showing the galaxy a new way forward. Where should we go? Marcus asked, though he could already sense her answer through their connection. Lyra smiled, her markings synchronizing with his crystalline patterns. Everywhere. Nowhere. Does it matter? We're already home. The ship accelerated into the starlit void, leaving behind a changed world and carrying within it the seeds of a changed galaxy. In the crystal forests below, the song they had created continued to play, its harmonies spreading like ripples in a pond, teaching the crystals a new way to grow, to change, to adapt. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, other beings would hear this song, and wonder, and choose their own paths toward evolution.